Welcome back to another episode of the K-Dog and Fish Show. I'm Fish.
K-Dog.
On this show, we both just saw the movie Air, directed by Ben Affleck, starring him and Matt Damon, about Michael Jordan getting signed by Nike. Mm-hmm. So we're going to break that down for you, give it a full review. What did you think of the movie Air?
Anyone that follows our channel knows what we're about, knows I'm all about Jordan.
You collect Jordan 3s.
All about Jordan. Air Jordans, Jordan 3s. I got an 11. But I'm all about Jordan 3s. Yeah. So this was right up my alley. I also love the story of the Air Jordan 1s and how it progressed through to the Air Jordan. Like, I love the story of Air Jordans.
This was really interesting. If you don't know much about basketball in 1984, the draft and where Nike's position was. Right. This is super interesting stuff. Like just from a history perspective of basketball and shoes, because it isn't like it is today where everybody has their own shoe. Right. Back then, it was Converse was number one, and they had Larry Bird and Magic Johnson
and everybody.
We're talking
Isaiah,
about
Bernard King, everybody.
1984 at this point in the movie. Yeah. And it was Adidas, which was actually more of a less about basketball, more about a pop culture brand, and they were huge in communities because they were Run DMC did the Adidas song. They were very huge in pop culture at the time, and Nike was third.
Nike was a massive company, but they were known for jogging, like running shoes and track shoes. They were not. Nobody was wearing Nikes. They didn't even have basketball shoes. No, nobody was wearing Nikes.
Their major like athletes endorsements were all decathlon related and track and field related. They were not known for basketball. Right. And one of the VPs played by Jason Bateman, who the whole cast is amazing, by the way. So you have Matt Damon, Ben Affleck is playing Phil Knight. He also directs the film. And then Jason Bateman is playing Strasser, one of the VPs of marketing.
Yeah, Matt Damon's playing Sonny Vaccaro.
Yeah. And so he is like, okay, we're going to take our budget and we're going to split it across a few different players. And because Converse and Adidas will get all the top players, they're looking into the draft, like who can they get for this little bit amount of money, and try and get 3 middle range draft picks. Right. And that draft was crazy, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of insane, legendary Hall of Fame players in that draft, including John Stockton, Charles Barkley, Kevin Willis. And then first overall was Hakeem Olajuwon. And famously, the Portland Trail Blazers screwed up big time.
Sam Bowie,
is second overall, leaving the Bulls to be able to grab Michael Jordan.
Right. And that was the one thing that I found that was kind of weird in the movie was that I remember when Jordan came out of North Carolina into the draft, the reason he went third is because it was a big man's game. Yeah. Right. They wanted centers. Bowie was over 7 feet. Olajuwon was number 1. He was over 7 feet.
Hakeem the Dream.
So Jordan came out, and I remember it was all about Jordan. Nobody knowing what Jordan should play. Yeah. Because he's 6'6". So he's 6'6". He's too small to be a forward. He's almost too big to be a point guard. But Jordan came out like a scoring guard. Yeah. So he was more of a gamble that Chicago took on him. So that's what I was kind of surprised at how. Like Nike was like, we have to get Jordan, which was, I mean, looking back, it was amazing, but he was a gamble because nobody really knew how he was going to fit into that NBA at that time.
Well, that's where Matt Damon's character came in. He saw something, this greatness before it happened. Right. He saw it watching the North Carolina championship game and actually brilliantly described it because you and I know of the game and seeing clips of the game that Jordan's winning shot. Right. And the way that Sonny's character describes it is like, the coach was like, you have veterans on this team and you chose to put the ball in his hands and you chose to give him that responsibility with your game on the line.
Right. And he didn't hesitate.
And he was cool as a cucumber. Yeah. And it was just the vision by the scout played by Matt Damon was like, this is the guy. It's not going to be, there's no point in going after Hakeem. Yeah. He's locked in with somebody else. Yeah. And he felt that Michael Jordan was the best player in this draft, and ultimately he was 1,000% correct.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, and why don't you tell, because the whole point is Michael Jordan didn't want anything to do with Nike. Do you want to talk?
No, that is actually a true story, and even he touches on it in the Last Dance documentary. He didn't want Nike.
Yeah,
he wanted Adidas. He wanted to sign with Adidas. He liked Adidas. He liked Adidas tracksuits. He wanted to go to Adidas.
Yeah,
he had no desire to be with Nike. So even in the movie where they don't show Michael, which is so smart not to do that.
I thought that was smart.
So smart not to do that because he's too iconic.
Yeah,
no one can play him. So, but by showing his back, showing him walking around, he was so disinterested in the meetings, and he said that. And they talked about it in another documentary called Unbanned, which is a story of Air Jordan 1s. You should check it out. I saw it on HBO. I'm not sure where you're going to see it. But it's a 90-minute documentary all about the Air Jordan 1s. And they talk about how Jordan had no interest to be with Nike. But they won him over with the prototype. It was a different-looking shoe. It was his shoe. They did great, but they had to win over the family. And once they won over the family, that kind of won. Well, I shouldn't say that won over Jordan. I think Jordan was...
It was the design.
Jordan was turned on by the design. The design was like different. He liked that. He liked that the brand was going to be built around him.
Yeah.
Because even Converse had their shoes, and they made them unique to the players, being like Magic was like gold and purple.
Yeah.
And Larry Bird's was obviously Kelly Green and white, and Bernard King was the Washington Bullet colors, or Washington Wizards now, but back then it was the Bullets.
It was the Bullets, yeah.
But it wasn't really unique to them individually. It was more the team colors.
Yeah.
I think that's what turned Jordan onto it.
They specifically designed a logo. It then morphed into the Jumpman logo, but the original logo was completely designed with him in mind, and then making it the Bulls colors, and it was the high top, and just a completely different shoe.
Yeah,
and the
designer, Peter Moore. And the shoe wasn't allowed in the NBA, which is crazy because shoes in the NBA had to be 51% white.
Yeah,
that was the deal. That's the way it had to be. And even when they came out with it, Jordan wanted it red and black.
Yeah,
but originally it was red, black, and white because that's the Bulls' colors. He wanted it red and black. So, but there was a lot of debate of how often he actually wore the shoes during the regular season, and how many times they actually did get fined, because even in the movie you saw that Nike agreed to pay the fines because they were going to fine Jordan $5,000, I think, every time he wore the shoes. Yeah. But it is debated how many times he actually wore the shoes during the regular season, but regardless, it doesn't matter.
The other thing debated in the film that I thought was interesting was who came up with the name Air Jordan.
Yeah.
So they did it very politically correct because it is a historical debate who actually came up with it. So was it the designer or was it Jordan's agent?
Jordan's agent. It's David Falk.
David Falk did it?
David Falk did it.
Yeah.
David
that was
Falk
Jordan's agent.
That was Jordan's agent. Yeah, David Falk. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He did. So.
Other than seeing Ben Affleck and Matt Damon on screen again together, it's been a while.
Yeah.
But having Viola Davis play Jordan's mom.
Right.
That was insanely. If you knew who Jordan's mom was like and her look and her demeanor and her attitude, that was perfect casting.
Yeah. And you should Google the Ben Affleck interviews where he talked about Viola Davis.
Yeah.
Because he had to approach Michael Jordan and talk about the movie. They weren't going to do the movie unless Jordan signed off on it.
Yeah.
So they went to, not them, just Ben Affleck went to Jordan, pitched the movie. It's like, who do you want to play his mother? And it was like Viola Davis. And Ben Affleck was like, okay. And they're like, who else? He's like, Viola Davis.
That's it.
There was nothing else. So then he talks about how he called Matt Damon afterwards.
Yeah.
And he said, how did the meeting go with Michael? He said, it went really good. He loves the idea. He's like, what? Was there anything wrong? He's like, one bad thing. We got to get Viola Davis to play his mother. Only Viola Davis. That's it. So yeah, it's a
But
pretty,
she was perfect.
She was perfect.
And fun fact, the guy who plays Michael Jordan's dad is actually Viola Davis's husband.
I didn't know that.
In real life.
Oh, cool.
Fun facts.
Yeah. One thing though, if you want to get into the story of the Air Jordan brand, one thing that's kind of funny is that you see this movie, you see the progression of the Air Jordan 1s and they get launched, which is great. But what you don't realize is that after that, they came out with the Air Jordan 2s, which flopped.
Yeah.
They were horrible. They were ugly. They didn't go over well. They were designed as a high-end sneaker. They were made in Italy, so the cost was insane.
Yeah.
Right? They bombed huge. this was a part where Jordan was pissed, right? And he was going to leave Nike.
None of this is in the movie.
None of this is in the movie. But this is just a funny side story. Yeah. That he was going to leave Nike at it was probably 87-ish. He was going to leave. And Rob Strasser and Peter Moore had left Nike, and those were obviously the guys who built part of the Jordan brand.
They were in the movie. Yeah. The head designer and Strasser was played by Jason Bateman.
Yeah. They actually left Nike and started their own company, which was a consulting company called Sports Incorporated, and they were dabbling into. They were going to get into the sports line, and they were going to create a line just for Jordan. Yeah. And they were trying to win Jordan over and steal Jordan from Nike, and they almost did it, except Phil Knight brought in Tinker Hatfield.
Yeah.
And Tinker Hatfield designed the famous Retro 3s, which are my favorite Jordans.
Favorites.
And that with the elephant print on the side and everything else, which he wore in the 1988 dunk contest when he jumped from the free throw line and all that kind of stuff.
And that launched the Airman logo.
The Jumpman logo was already there. But it wasn't on the ones or twos. It came on the on the Retro 3s. And then that also launched the whole line because the elephant print, they did an entire clothing line around it. But Tinker Hatfield is basically the guy who saved Nike.
See, then none of that's in the movie.
None of that's in the movie because that was Retro 3, so that was years later. But he actually saved the movie. So if you also want to watch something else, first of all, watch the unbanned documentary about the Air Jordan 1s, and then go on Netflix, because you got a Netflix account, and sign into Abstract, which is basically a Netflix series about the art of design, and they have a series, like not series, but an episode on Tinker Hatfield.
Nice.
Where they talk about Tinker Hatfield and his connection with Jordan and everything else. But he literally saved. If it wasn't for Tinker Hatfield, Jordan was gone. Like, he was leaving. Anyways, a little fun fact.
Yeah, but the really cool thing about that, too, is that Michael Jordan was golfing with those two guys.
When Tinker was coming, Tinker was flying into town to see him.
Yeah.
And he was out and he was golfing with Strasser and Peter Moore, and they were trying to woo him away.
And Peter Moore took all of his threes, his designs, when he left.
Right.
So they were trying to use that to woo Jordan. That's a really interesting after story.
It's a great after story.
Discuss in the movie.
Yeah.
And as history has shown us that obviously Tinker saved it. Yeah. And him and Phil Knight and Jordan is still with Nike to this day, and they even showed it at the end of the movie that he still makes $400 million a year in passive income from this original deal that he was going to get. He was going to get for life a cut of everything with his name on it sold.
Yeah.
So every year he makes $400 million. From Jumpman and Jordan.
And that's completely true. His mother is the one who brokered that deal.
Yeah.
That's completely true. Dolores Jordan brokered that deal.
It's crazy. I love that they touched on a lot of things, even briefly about things that were to come, like Jordan's father being killed and other things through newspaper clippings. Like, the movie did do the story justice. And at the end of the day, I think Matt Damon had an amazing performance.
No, there's a couple things they got.
Really enjoyed it.
They took some liberties at.
Okay.
But nothing crazy. Nothing that was the majority of it was factually correct.
And the funny thing is with movies like that, you know that this happens and that they nail it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're invested like, oh, I hope they nail this meeting.
Yeah.
But in real life, you know that they did.
Yeah.
But it still builds, and I think that's through great storytelling, a great script, and really good direction by Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Anyway, fantastic. Loved it. Recommend it. For more stuff about pop culture, movies, everything, make sure you're following us on all social channels. And if you've seen the movie, put in the comments what you thought of it. We'd love to hear what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Fish.
K-Dog.
We'll see you again soon.